Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for arriving on time. I am just going to give it another few minutes to see if any stragglers arrive, and then we'll start the session shortly. But thank you for being on time. Hello again. As I say, I'll just wait another one more minute, I should think, maybe two, for another couple of stragglers to come, and then we'll start the session very shortly. Okay? Speak to you soon. Okay, I think that is just about enough time spent waiting for other people. I don't want to eat into your day any further. Hello there, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to come along and speak to me today. My name is Bradley. I'm an ASK advisor, that is apprenticeship support and knowledge. We're part of the amazing apprenticeships and we're supported by the National Apprenticeship Service. And my job normally is to tour the schools of London and promote the awareness and uptake of apprenticeships among young people. Okay. Now, doing that also enables me to support young people in things like interview techniques, recognizing strengths, and general job hunting, because there's so much overlap between the apprenticeship job hunt and a regular job hunt. Okay. So whether you're tuning in today with apprenticeships specifically in mind, or you just like some scaffolding to support you in your job hunt, either way, we should have some great information here that hopefully you'll find very useful. Okay, so in today's session, it's basically going to be broken down into three. The first section will be looking at an overview of apprenticeships in short, and then we'll be looking at recognizing your strengths and how to write a winning application. Okay, so that's what we're doing today in a nutshell. And without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so first of all, the very, very basics then, what are apprenticeships? So an apprenticeship is an on-the-job training program that mixes work with study, for which you get paid, and at the end of it, you leave a qualification that entitles you to work in your chosen sector. Okay. Now, every single apprentice is paid a wage, as I've said. The national minimum wage for an apprentice is £3.90 an hour, which is less than the national minimum wage, and that does startle some people. It puts them off, but I would stress that really is only the minimum wage. Most apprenticeships will in fact pay more than that. And even if it is one of the lower paid ones, remember, you don't get paid to go to college or to university. So you're still earning a wage to do your studying and to do your work. Okay. Now, every apprentice will work for at least 30 hours a week. So we're looking at about 80% of your time spent on the job, learning from the experts, and about 20% studying at a college or university, depending on the level of apprenticeship that you're doing. Okay. Now, it is not a soft option. It is a real job with real responsibilities. You have to abide by whatever professional standards the organization wants, including turn up to work on time, being appropriately dressed. You won't be mollycoddled through it. However, with all these responsibilities, there are also rights. You are a worker, and as a worker, you have workers' rights, including holiday pay and sick pay, and you can't be summarily dismissed or fired for no reason. Okay, you have the same kind of protections that adult workers would have in that respect. Okay. There is an increasingly wide range of apprenticeships. You have traditional vocational apprenticeships like hairdressing, mechanics, plumbing, being an electrician, that kind of thing. But you also have apprenticeships now in nursing, journalism, accountancy, aviation, cybersecurity. So a very, very wide range of apprenticeships available. Every single sector will now have an apprenticeship route into it. Okay, not every single job within the sector necessarily, but certainly every single industry will have an apprenticeship route into it. Now, here are some employers which are offering apprenticeships right now. These are just some of them. About half the apprenticeships you find will be with small companies you've never heard of before. And in some ways, they offer quite attractive programs, all right? Because if there's only 7 people in the team and you're one of them, that company's success depends on you doing really, really well. So they invest a lot of time and effort into making sure that happens. But these big name brands also offer very well vetted and very well respected apprenticeship programs. You see the Royal Air Force on there, for example. All branches of the military offer apprenticeships now. The police, Metropolitan Police, also offer the same. If you're a creative person, you might think BBC, ITV offer apprenticeship programs for you. If you're tech inclined, Google. If you're thinking about being a mechanic, Jaguar and Land Rover will offer apprenticeships and that kind of thing, as well as higher level degree engineering ones. So a very wide range of different apprenticeship opportunities available, even at places like Pets at Home and Prep. Okay. So a quick talk about the levels of apprenticeships, right? But before we do that, I just want to talk to you a little bit about traineeships. Now, we have got future sessions coming up over the next few weeks, and we'll let you know when they're going to be happening. And we'll talk a lot more about traineeships in those. But a traineeship, in case you don't know, It's like a formal work experience program. It can last from 6 weeks up to 6 months. It'll get you a level 1 qualification. It isn't paid, but it's a great way to get yourself on the apprenticeship ladder. Okay, so you could do a level 1 traineeship at an organisation, and that would put you in very good stead to get an apprenticeship afterwards. Okay, now you can start some apprenticeships at the age of 16 after your GCSEs are done. Okay, and the first level you can do is a level 2. Now, a level 2 apprenticeship is designed for young people who perhaps haven't left with the best grades in English or maths or across the board. And there are some supplementary learning there for English and maths to boost those skills. So if you're a student who's left GCSEs without great grades, never fear, there is still an apprenticeship route available to you. Okay, you just have to start at level 2. Level 3s, I should say level 2s are the equivalent of GCSEs, by the way. Level 3s are the equivalent of A-levels. And again, you can start them at age 16. You don't have to do a level 2 first. If your grades are already good enough, you can start straight at a level 3. And for many industries, such as like hairdressing, mechanics, plumbing, a level, or being an estate agent, for example, a level 3 apprenticeship is all you would need to qualify you to do that job. All right. And then beyond that, you have higher and degree level apprenticeships you can do after sixth form or after you finished your level 3 apprenticeship. Okay. So, as I say, that's apprenticeships in a nutshell. And really, I could talk about an apprenticeship for an entire hour-long session, but that's not the main purview of today's talk. Where would you go if you wanted to find an apprenticeship to apply for? So you like the idea, but how on earth do you find them? Well, the first place to look would be a government website called findanapprenticeship.gov.uk. Okay, it's the largest single compilation of apprenticeship opportunities in the country by quite a wide margin. Not every opportunity will be advertised on here, and we'll talk about other places to look afterwards. But findanapprenticeship.gov.uk is the place to start your research. Okay, now it's very easy to use. So you can sign in and create an account. And once you've created your account, you can start the search process. All right, and the search process is very easy. You put in the type of apprenticeship you're looking for, your postcode, how far you're prepared to travel from work, the level of apprenticeship that you're looking for, and then it will generate a list for you of all the apprenticeship opportunities that match your search criteria in your area. Okay, so it'll give you the job description, the title of the apprenticeship, the company it's with, how long it will take you to get there, and you can follow a link to the company website for more detailed information, including how to apply for that opportunity. Okay. You can also create a bell notification system, just like on YouTube. So it'll send you a text or email every time a new opportunity comes online that matches your search criteria. So you don't have to check it every single day. It will send you a text or an email if a new one comes online that matches your search. Okay. Other places to look might include Vacancy Snapshot. Vacancy Snapshot is where you find those big name brands, those big name companies that offer apprenticeships like Royal Mail, Network Rail, For Engineering, Google, Boots. UCAS might have some on there, although it's mostly for universities. You might find a few degree apprenticeships on there as well. Also, Fire It Up Apprenticeships will have a vacancy listing on there as well for each month of the academic year. All right. Other places to look would involve the usual company, the individual company website. Okay, so you can go onto the website and check their vacancy sections, or you can contact the company by telephone. It's really good to contact companies directly. That shows you're enthusiastic, you've got that get up and go. And as I say, many opportunities won't be advertised on findanapprenticeship.gov. So it's really important to do your own research and look at individual companies. Find all the companies in your area that work in this, that operate in the sector you're interested in, and apply to them directly. Okay. Social media, things like Twitter and LinkedIn will have lots of information on there. LinkedIn in particular is useful. Lots of professionals use LinkedIn to share expertise, experience, resources, and also job opportunities. So it's worth creating a LinkedIn account just for a job or apprenticeship hunt, even if you're not particularly interested in social media. Okay, I think that's really useful, LinkedIn. And finally, friends and family, word of mouth, neighbours, teachers, whoever it happens to be. Very often people come across apprenticeship opportunities because of someone they know. So it's definitely worth inquiring to see if they know of an opportunity for you to apply for. All right. So that brings us to the end of the first section. the apprenticeship overview. If you have any questions, please do write them in the comment section. I'm happy to answer them at the end. I won't see the questions until the end because I'm looking at my PowerPoint screen at the moment, not the YouTube comment section. But do write the questions down and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Okay? But moving on now to recognizing your strengths. Okay? So recognizing your strengths is a really important skill when you're applying for apprenticeships or regular job opportunities. Okay, it's really foundational to everything else that you do. So, to demonstrate that, have a look now at what the application process will look like. Okay, this is a general one. The first thing you do is register and search for your opportunity, which we've spoken about already. And then you have the apply section, right? That's when you write your CV and you fill in the application form. Recognizing your strengths is essential to that. You need to detail your strengths in the application form and reflect them in your CV. Okay, if you're not recognizing your strengths there, you probably won't get considered. Before you're shortlisted, you might have a short telephone interview with an employer, in which case you'll need to advertise your strengths again. The assessments, which might be on the internet or they may not be, like an online test, that will maybe test your strengths. So it's really important that you're honest about what you write in the application form. And finally, in the long form interview at the end, you'll need to talk at great length about your strengths. Okay. So if you can't recognize your strengths, the entire process falls apart. So it's really important that you get this down. Okay. So let's start with the very basics. What are strengths? Okay. I'm sure you will know the answer to that question, but we'll go over it anyway. A strength, obviously, is something you are good at. Okay. It's something natural or something you've developed. Okay, so it could be a natural skill or something you've worked hard over years to improve on. Absolutely everybody is good at something. If you don't think you're good at something, speak to friends, families, teachers, whoever it happens to be, because they will know a strength that you have. All right. Everyone's good at different things. That's really important. Different people have different strengths, and different strengths will be suited to different job roles. Our strengths might change over time. So, for example, someone maybe wasn't very good or confident at public speaking. That might improve as they get older, for example. So it's always in flux. It's always changing as you learn new skills. Participating in activities we are good at can make us feel happy. We all like subjects at school we were good at and hated the ones we weren't good at, for example. We develop strengths in different ways, and being able to talk about our strengths will increase our confidence. Okay, and strengths can help you identify possible careers. Okay, so if you're at a bit of a loss, you don't really know what you want to do with yourself going forward in life, knowing what your strengths are can help you choose a career that you're well suited to. All right, now we're going to play a short video. It will not play the audio, but it's just background music. It's not saying anything verbally. So take a look at this short video describing strengths. Okay, so I'd like to pick up where that video left off, first of all. You notice they say that we focus much more on our weaknesses, we're much more aware of them than we are of our strengths. So it's really important to have a good, hard think about what our strengths are. Okay, so, oh, pardon me. So here is just a word map of some various strengths you can find. This talk will be left online. So if at any point you'd like to refer back to it when you're trying to find words that describe your strengths, please do. You can pause it at this moment. You can see various strengths on there from hardworking, independent, ambitious, versatile, problem solving, considerate, creative, polite, organized. There might be someone there that you haven't thought of. Okay, things like polite and positive and patient and caring, you might not have thought of those as strengths, but actually they are, and they will lend themselves to certain careers. Okay, so if you're caring, you might be good at education, for example, working in the education sector. Yeah, maybe with nursery school children, that kind of thing. All right. So Ben, please do refer to that if you're ever stuck for some strengths. Now, one thing you might not have considered when thinking about your strengths are hobbies. All right. Now, your hobbies can actually demonstrate your strengths in ways you wouldn't necessarily have thought of. All right. So if you're a big gamer, you might not think that will demonstrate or evidence strengths, but actually it does. If you're a gamer, you're showing good communication skills, analytical skills, resourcefulness, adaptability, technical skills, problem solving, to name just a few. If you're interested in makeup, again, that demonstrates creativity, following trends, research techniques, interpersonal skills, confidence, attention to detail, and many, many more. If you're interested in cooking even, that's creativity, again, attention to detail, patience, self-expression, multitasking. So all these hobbies can demonstrate your strengths. So I think about what your hobby is and how it demonstrates your strengths. All right. Now, this short video will detail, again, some more hobbies and the strengths they show. Again, no sound, I'm afraid, but it's only just over a minute. And there's no talking in the video either. It's just a background song. Okay, so lots of different hobbies there and lots of different strengths that those hobbies can demonstrate. Okay, so moving on then. This is a little activity for you to do, not right now, but it's something I would advise you to do going forward. Okay, so this is just a strength table. Now, we've had a look at lots of different strengths over the course of the presentation so far. It's a really good idea for you to identify your personal strengths and make a table of them. Okay, and you can rate your strengths from 1 to 5. And you can also give an example of a time that you've demonstrated that strength, so you can talk about it fluidly in an interview, okay? Or write about it easily in an application form, okay? If you have this strengths table done ahead of time, you won't have to be scratching your brain every single time you apply for something, because you'll already have this scaffolding done ahead of time. Okay, so it's really worth doing. Even if it seems silly, it's quite a good way of thinking about what your strengths are and remembering them, so you can talk about them fluidly in interview context. All right. And again, another long list of personal strengths. So if you aren't sure what strengths apply to you, pause it at this section of the video or afterwards, and you can find a long list there. Okay. Now, I mentioned earlier that you need to evidence your strengths as well. Okay, so it's not good enough just say I'm good at X, Y, or Z. You have to give an example of a time you showed that strength to prove it. Okay, and you'll have to do that sometime. You very often have to do that during an interview context. Okay, so we've got an example here of the board. A young lady claims she is honest, but she didn't just say it; she proves it. So I'm honest. An example of this is when I was working in a shop and a customer had just paid for something costing £10. They gave me a £20 note and walked away before I'd given them the change. I chased after them and gave them the correct change. They were very grateful. Okay, so don't just say you're good at something, give an example. That's quite a simple example, but it demonstrates the point. Okay, so to summarize what we've spoken about with regards to recognizing your strengths, recognizing your strengths and how they have developed is key to successfully selling yourself to an employer. And that's what this is all about. In the application form, in interview, you are selling yourself. We all demonstrate our skills each day. Identifying your skills enables you to match yourself to suitable jobs. When applying for jobs, look at how your strengths can support the application. We're going to look at that in a bit more detail now, moving forward. Your strengths will develop. It's a changing journey. If you get stuck, ask family, friends, or teachers what they think your strengths are. And then I shall remind you, if you have any questions about recognizing your strengths, do write them in the comment section. I shall see them at the end and answer them. But now we're going to move on to some tips on how to write a winning application. Although you'll see that recognizing your strengths is important for this section as well. Okay. So how to write a winning apprenticeship application is very much the same as how to write a regular job application. And again, here's the application process. So after you've registered and searched for jobs, the first thing you do is you'll already have your CV to hand, and we'll have some CV advice in the upcoming sections as well. But the application form is what you submit, usually digital. The employers get it and they will shortlist based on how your application looks. Okay. So some apprenticeship application tips, okay, things to remember. All right, make sure you have an adult professional sounding email address. All right, might sound quite simple, but a lot of young people have slang terms in their email address or jokes. It's really important that you don't use an email address like that when applying for a job, because if you do, you won't be taken seriously as an adult. You'll seem juvenile, immature, and they won't want to take you on. All right. Also, it is probably not a great idea to use your school email address either, because again, that just reminds everyone how young you are. You should create your own email address on Gmail, Yahoo, whatever it happens to be, and make sure it's professional sounding and adult. Okay. Make sure you put your telephone number in correctly. You'll be amazed how often people are trying to get contacted, or an employer is trying to contact someone and a digit is wrong, so they can't get hold of them. When that happens, they won't chase you because they just think you've been careless, and they probably won't want to take you on anyway, and they've probably got more applicants than they need anyway. All right. Personal details, I would recommend having those to hand, including useful documents like your qualifications, not just your school qualifications, but anything else you've achieved, not just your results, I mean, but things like, if you've done like a first aider course, that kind of thing. Make sure your personal details are correctly written in the application form as well. Prepare it first in a Word document, okay? So don't just write it directly onto the application form. Each section writes out in Word first. That will enable you to run a spelling and grammar check. Speaking of which, make sure the spelling and grammar is thoroughly checked. Nothing to be embarrassed about asking for help on this score. I make spelling and grammar mistakes all the time. All adults do. So there's no shame in getting an adult or a peer to cross-reference your work and check to make sure there are no mistakes, okay? Because I was speaking to an employer once, for example, who said that when they get application forms, they go through them, and if they see a spelling or grammar mistake, they just put it into the no pile straight away. Not because that candidate is automatically rubbish, it just makes that candidate look careless, right? And they don't want a careless employee. One thing I would say is give yourself enough time to get your application form in. Now, on every job advert, certainly on apprenticeships as well, there will be a closing date. The closing date is the date by which you need to apply by, all right? So always make sure you get it in, your application in by the closing date. And I'll actually give yourself a little bit of a cushion beforehand, because sometimes jobs will be taken down before the closing date because they've had so many applicants and they can't process anymore. I don't think they should do that ethically, but some of them do, so you need to be aware of it, all right? Also, if you leave it to last minute, it's likely to be rushed, more likely to have mistakes. And if you've handed it in early, the employer will see that you've probably got good time management skills and you've planned your time well, which might make you seem more attractive, all right? So always give yourself enough time before the closing date to get the application form in. Some other things to remember. You may need your predicted and or achieved grades, depending on your situation. They may have been achieved already, or they may be predicted. You know, people often ask, you know, if in the entry criteria, the thresholds are, you know, whatever grades they happen to be, and I'm a little bit short, is it still worth me applying? And I say, contact the company and ask, because actually for apprenticeships and for many jobs, if everything else on the CV is excellent, they may well be interested in taking you on anyway. It's not like applying for university where they're a bit more rigid on grades. For an apprenticeship or a job, they're likely to be flexible if there are other things about you that they really like, all right? One thing they might really like would include work experience, okay? So I mentioned traineeships earlier. That's a formalized, structured work experience program, but it doesn't have to be that formal. It could be informal work experience. I would really stress getting as much work experience as possible. It will stand you in good stead during the application. It really makes your application stand out if there's lots of great work experience there. Work experience might also include Saturday jobs, all right? So even if you're applying for something that doesn't seem relevant to the job you have now, the part-time job you have now, don't worry, because some of the skills you've picked up might be transferable and you're still demonstrating that you're hardworking, amongst other things, all right? So work experience is really important. Stress all the work experience you have and get as much as possible. Buzzwords we'll talk about a little bit more moving forward. And finally, useful documents. You might need your national insurance number. You might need your certificates of achievements, your grades. I would say have those to hand in a convenient place where they're easy to access. Nothing more annoying than having to go into the loft to get all your documents out every time you want to send a job application off. So have them to hand so you can access them nice and easily. All right. So as promised, the next thing we're going to talk about is buzzwords. All right. Now, what are buzzwords? Buzzwords are phrases or words that employers use in their job advert to highlight the kind of person they're looking for. Okay, so you can see in the job advert example that we've got on the PowerPoint, the buzzwords are confident, work independently, well-spoken, and good time management skills. Now, it's important to look for the buzzwords when you're writing out your application, because you should really use the buzzwords in your application form, okay? So use words like confident, independent worker, well-spoken, good time management skills to describe yourself, and that demonstrates you're the kind of person that the employer is looking for. And you'll see the link here between skills, yeah? If you can recognize your strengths, your skills, and you know that they match the buzzwords, always a good idea to use them. So here's a blank one, a blank job description. So let's see if we can find the buzzwords here as well. Well, some examples, there are a few, could be verbal and written English, strong numeracy skills, confident communication, logical thinker, self-motivated, keen and eager to learn. So these are all things that you can just, these are all phrases you can use to describe yourself in the application form. Okay. And again, this is what I'm talking about earlier, the strength table. Doing this is a good idea, and this proves it. This is a place where you can use it. When you're writing your application form, just grab the strength table that hopefully you've already done, and you'll be able to pull your strengths from that table into your application form, into your CV, without having to think from scratch. All right, so it really is a good idea to do that strength table. Okay, so strength statements then. During your application form, you may be asked to detail what your strengths are, and you might have to write it as a paragraph rather than as bullet points, all right? So when you do that, as we were saying earlier, you have to give an example of a time you showed that strength. So here's a good example in the presentation for you now. This person says, I have extremely good communication skills. I have given presentations in front of large audiences in whole year assemblies, and I've also talked in front of groups in the classroom. As a sixth form ambassador, I have been involved in opening evenings where I've spoken to groups of parents and prospective students about my experience of the sixth form. I also have excellent written communication skills, and I'm confident speaking on the telephone. Okay, this person has demonstrated, they've said this, what their strength is, communication skills, and they've given several examples of times they've shown those communication skills, and they've even differentiated it and said, I've actually got good written communication skills as well. Yeah, not just verbal. So that's really important. Get as many different differentiations as you can, as many different examples to make your application stand out. So having spoken a great deal about the skills and strengths that you have, they will very likely ask you something you would like to improve on, okay? Now that can be quite a difficult one to work through. And we have some examples of skills to improve, of some answers to this question on the board. And we're going to look at which ones are good and which ones aren't, okay? The first one says, I would say that sometimes during work or at the end of a task, I need someone's approval of if the work was exceptional. Also at times, I could be afraid to ask someone something if I feel I am bothering them, which is something I'd like to overcome by not being afraid to ask them, okay? So that paragraph, there are a few grammatical mistakes. I need someone's approval of if the work, for example, and again, you don't want any grammatical errors in your application form at all. And they haven't really described how they're going to overcome this weakness. So I'd like to overcome by not being afraid to ask them. Again, that's not really a strategy. That's more of an aim, okay? So that was got a few issues. Number two, I would like to improve my knowledge of working and the business world. Okay, so they've described the skill they want to improve, but they haven't said how they would like to improve it and how that job will help them improve it. Number three is pretty terrible. My working skills and concentration skills. These aren't full sentences. There's certainly no explanation of how they're going to go about improving them. And finally, the fourth one, the skill I would like to develop through this apprenticeship is my confidence. I feel that by meeting and working with new people and putting myself in a different environment will help to push me out of my comfort zone and overall boost my confidence. Okay, so that one's much better. They've identified the skill they'd like to improve, and they've described how that apprenticeship or that job will help them improve that skill. Okay, so that's perfect. So when you're asked to say something, asked to describe a weakness or a skill to improve, always say how the job will help you improve upon that weakness, okay, and what your plan is. Okay, so the last thing to talk about with regards to writing a winning application is to research, okay? It's really important that you research the company you're applying for and the industry in general, all right? So they'll expect you to reflect knowledge about the industry, but also why you want to work for that particular company, okay? So stay connected, follow them online, worth creating that LinkedIn account that I mentioned earlier, because that will allow you to follow the industry news. and keep up to date with their latest developments. Read the company's social media and newsletters, research the sector, and read about their recruitment process, because each recruitment process will be slightly different. Okay, but doing that research really shows that you've got that get up and go, that you're engaged, that you want to work for that company. All right. So we're nearing the end of the presentation now. So I'll just remind you, if you're looking for an apprenticeship, to visit findandapprenticeship.gov.uk. And again, they're not all advertised on there, but I won't repeat that now, but that's a great place to start. AmazingApprenticeships.com has lots of activities that can help you in an apprenticeship hunt, and the skills of which would be applicable to a normal job hunt as well, including, interview techniques and interview skills. But incidentally, we'll be looking at interview skills in our future sessions, including online interview skills and how to succeed there. But please do follow us at ASK on Twitter at Apprenticeships. Download Fire Up apps. You can check out the National Apprenticeship Service on the internet, or search for apprenticeships on gov.uk, or give us a call on that number. And that's the end of the session. So now we'll move on to the Q&A. If you have any questions and haven't written them yet, please do write them in the comment section. I'm going to stop sharing the PowerPoint so that I can now see the questions. So let's have a look if any questions have come through. I can't see any yet, and that's absolutely fine if you don't have any. As I say, there may well be future sessions coming up where we'll be looking at other interview techniques and other skills that you need in the job application process. So if you are interested, we will let you know via the mechanisms that you have found out about today if they're happening. As there are no questions, I will end the broadcast shortly. But before then, I shall thank you for your attention. Thank you for coming, and wish you all the best of luck in your future job hunts, your apprenticeship hunts, or whatever else you do in the future. Okay, thank you for coming. Take care. Bye-bye.